In the dream space, I tapped my foot, staring at the void like it owed me answers. 2 new features blinked into existence, achievements, and a skill tree. The first was a letdown, awaken a sleeping history. No buffs, no perks, just a pat on the back from the system. But the second now, that was flashy, even if it was a dead end. The Warby's skill tree shimmered with potential, but my perk point balance was a big fat 0. Still, I knew what I wanted. I reached into the code and grabbed Hircine's Surprise, a passive that morphed into a power called Hircine's Hunt, something primal, something borrowed from the Ring's shadow. Not a spell, but a hunger, ready to be unleashed. The power was wild thrilling at first. Hircine's Hunt lasted 4 chaotic days, each breath shadowed by unseen pursuit. It had limits, sure, but the rush was real. Then came the next test danger sense, jacked from another player. I twisted it into a spell, Detect. Sounded epic. Master tier though, great if you've got bottomless mana. I didn't. It guzzled 345 mana per second and turned out mostly useless except it sniffed out undead, constructs, magical signatures. That part, awesome. So I tried flipping the Ring's gift into something new. Ping! Notification slaps me. Unable to convert. Just like that. Hope fizzled. Guess even broken gods have rules. Could I not convert the item's ability? Maybe I was low on dream mana. I shrugged and dropped 3 perk points into speechcraft. Felt like a good investment. For once I didn't glitch or fast travel, I actually walked out the door. The second I stepped outside, the world shimmered. Oddly refreshing. Except, I was still in Morthal. Swamps were already a nightmare, but this frozen bog was next level miserable. I woke in the inn sticky, cold, and regretting everything. A quick stat check showed a new passive. Restful sleep, 10 hours of boosted experience gain. At least there was that. I rolled out of bed and headed to the front. Jonna greeted me with a grin. Good afternoon, sleepyhead. I waved with a smile. Good afternoon. Jonna handed me a free room. Generosity like that deserved a little extra charm. We struck a deal. My stay in exchange for removing one very persistent problem, Lurbuck. I had time to kill till nightfall, so I wandered over to the orc polishing a flute. You're Lurbuck? I asked. His eyes lit up like a festival fire. A new face. What a joy in gloomy old Morthal. Speak, friend, speak. I scratched my neck. This guy was painfully cheerful, not like other orcs. I knew his faded dark brotherhood contracts don't leave much room for optimism. I don't mean to offend, I said, but maybe you should try the Bard's College in Solitude because you're awful. His shoulders dropped like a failed drum roll. Not you too. I try my best, all right, but nothing I do ever seems good enough. His voice cracked with a forced chuckle. I raised an eyebrow, watching his hunched form. You're not like other orcs, are you? Exiled? His eyes dropped, murmuring, yeah, I gripped his shoulder. I've heard things. Lurbuck Grow, Dushnik, right? His stare sharpened. I don't know that name. My gaze hardened. I heard about someone performing the Black Sacrament. Name was Berguk Grow Dushnik. Sound familiar? His eyes widened like code caught mid-glitch. Father, he would. He met my eyes, scanning them like a broken quest line looking for logic. Then what should I do? You're the one telling me this? I muttered, narrowing my eyes. Lurbuck gave a slow nod. Of course. I was trained from childhood like every orc from the strongholds. I crossed my arms, weighing the odds. Then listen, go to Solitude. If you want to become a real bard, not just one with dreams, but with songs worth singing, the Bard's College is the place. If they shut you out, ask about the lost instruments. Some bards lose more than lyrics when they roam Skyrim. Use your strength. Make them notice you. That's how you learn. Lurbuck blinked, stunned. Yes, that could work, but... He faltered, doubt rising like a cold mist. I didn't let the silence stretch. You think the Dark Brotherhood will hunt you across Skyrim? As the war throttles movement and fear swells in Solitude, rumors echo the Brotherhood might want you dead, but in Skyrim, their grip is weak. Keep sharp, stay clever, and maybe you'll outlast them. I flashed him a grin. He returned it with a nervous chuckle. Thanks, Vec Frostwain. His face lit up. Thank you, Vec. Honestly, I think folks here in Morthal aren't too fond of me. He sprang to his feet. Jonna, I'm packing. Wish me luck. Jonna's eyes widened, a gleam of hope breaking across her face. No problem. I'll see you out, Lurbuck. With that, I left the Indinga new notification. Speechcraft 41. Leveled up. Still needed more perk points. Chapter 22. Morthal. Next stop, Morthal. The air felt heavy, but not just from the fog. Phalian lived here, and let's just say, people didn't send him love letters. Still, rumors whispered of his power he could cure vampirism, for one, and maybe more. Something told me he wasn't just hiding from the townsfolk, he was hunting vampires. I knocked. A little girl answered. Hello? I kept it cool, smiled. Phalian around? He's your magic teacher, right? Her eyes widened like I just conjured a dragon. Then Phalion stepped up, face like stone. What do you want? I didn't flinch. 3 seers live here in Morthal, out of 7 across all of Skyrim, and 3 of them are kids. That's not chance, it's code. He squinted, unsure if I was mad or prophetic. Who are you? He asked. And honestly, I was starting to wonder the same. My name is Vec Frostwain, I said, standing at the edge of mortal trust and Daedric paranoia. Born of Atmora's frost, bloodlined with snow elves, I bend more than just magic. Phalion's eyes narrowed, but he stepped aside. Enter. One wrong twitch, and I'll exile you to the deepest pit of oblivion. He turned to the girl. Agni, outside. Lessons resume later. She nodded, vanishing with silent grace. He faced me again. How did you know she's a seer? I shrugged. Elder Scrolls. His frown deepened. He misread me. Perfect. I leaned in, calm and precise. That truth spell of yours. How does it work? The room tensed, magic waiting like coiled code. It's conjuration, not a truth spell, but I get the confusion. Alteration apprentices tend to blur the lines. Harsh? Maybe. But I wasn't here to spar over semantics. I needed to know if he had it, because trust isn't exactly his strong suit, and I knew my charm wouldn't cut it. He grunted something close to interest, so I pushed on. The real reason I'm here? Morthal's got a vampire plague, and I think you're the one to handle it with my help. Not to make friends, but to stop them from seeing you as the source of every shadow. You deserve to be accepted for who you are, not what they fear. I added a hook. Helping would protect your ward, especially with the Jarl's son being a seer. That stopped him. His eyes narrowed. What do you mean? I smiled. So, he didn't know. Phalion slammed his fist on the table, eyes wide with fear and suspicion. You can't threaten me. Are you some kind of Daedra? I tilted my head, a faint smile curling my lips. Number, I'm exactly what I said I am, but maybe I'm being strung along by one, or maybe it's something even higher than them. Who knows? The words weren't threats, just truths tangled in the web of a bigger game. I'm not threatening you, Phalion. I'm fulfilling my role, that's all. That smile had hit him like a glitch in the Matrix, cracking his certainty. But that conversation proved everything I needed. The Daedric princes will know now. I'm a player. And being a player, it's different. It's special. The Dragonborn questline is moving, ticking in the background like a countdown. But the scariest part? These NPCs, they're not just lines of code, they remember. They adapt. Maybe I'm stuck in some full-dive VR psychosis. Or maybe I've already become part of the simulation. I only need you to kill some vampires once I prove they're here in Morthal. You already know that. Phalion's fist hit the table like thunder. You can't threaten me. Are you some kind of Daedra? I tilted my head, calm. No, I'm exactly what I said. Maybe being strung along by a Daedra, maybe something higher. Who knows? But this isn't a threat, Phalion. It's a role. I'm just playing it. My grin twisted the air. Fear crept into his eyes. That moment confirmed everything. The Daedric princes would recognize me as a player. My presence wasn't ordinary. The main quest, the one with the Dragonborn, was moving again. And more than anything, the NPCs weren't just NPCs. Maybe I was falling into full VR psychosis. Or maybe something was waking up. Everything felt too real, like my memories began and ended in Nirn, as if the beta wasn't just a test, but a veil. No backstory, just protocol. Legacy flickering at the edge of my thoughts. I needed to push the boundaries. Someone like Phalion, a wild card of rituals and regret, was the perfect fulcrum. I gripped the door handle, threw him a mission, take down Alva, then follow me to the Jarl to raise hell on Movirth's lair. His tongue click sealed it compliance wrapped in concern for Agni, that girl shackled by her own potential. Even the young deserve freedom from coded destinies. Then came the artifact. I could feel it buried in this broken town, a Daedric shard pulsing like a heartbeat behind the texture map. Retrieving it would cue a quest line, sure, but I wasn't here to play by the quest's rules. I was here to rewrite them. No matter how powerful that dagger might be, it won't change what's coming. I turned toward the Milthry figures at work. 2 unknown, and 1 unmistakably Jorgen. My boots hit the ground heavy as I strode over, the air thick with unfinished business. Hello? I called. Jorgen glanced up, squinting. I, the merchant with the strange tree? Grateful he didn't bring up my awkward entrance into Morthal armorless and humiliated, I forced a half smile. I need to talk, I said, and he climbed down, wary but curious. It's about the carriage being built and something else. I unfolded a sketch, more artifact and blueprint. Not a carriage, but a wheeled shell for Odine something that wouldn't draw Solitude's eyes. But before I could mention the Razor's Hilt Daedric, cursed, and dangerously linked to the code beneath our world, I needed trust. And in this glitched reality, trust was just another variable to rewrite. Jorgen squinted at the sketch, grunting. Yeah, we can build that. It's just a wooden cart with wheels and a handle, really. You want it full of dirt too? I gave him a nod, grinning. That'd be perfect. Honestly didn't think it was doable. Woodcutters down in Falkreath told me it wasn't. Hauled the whole tree halfway across Skyrim just in case. Jorgen scratched his neck, clearly embarrassed. Well, I've done most of the carpentry in Morthal. Not much else to do unless we're shipping timber to Solitude, and that's a once-a-month job. But what's the deal with that tree? Never seen one like it. I let out a breath. Unless you've been to Black Marsh, you wouldn't. They say it's some kind of hist, but I'm not buying it. Supposedly twisted from the Oblivion Crisis. His expression tightened, suddenly uneasy. Darkness crept in as the final touches to Odin's transport neared completion, the whispering tree still spying on us all. I hauled Odin into the Kratit's roots, coiling, adjusting, settling. Bit tight, but it'll work. Still feels unfinished, it muttered. Jorgen beamed at his creation, so I tossed a question his way. Just need handles and wheels now, right? His eyes lit up. Yes, these wheels, you mind if I use the design? They're incredible. He meant the omnidirectional ones I made, so I wouldn't have to shove a talking tree uphill in one direction like some cursed lumberjack. A nod was all he needed. Night crept in as the final bolts clicked into place. Odin's crate was nearly complete, its twisted roots folding neatly into the box like a creature preparing for hibernation. That nosy tree had been listening the whole time, and now it muttered from inside. Little cramped, but this will do. It's unfinished though, isn't it? I turned to Jorgen, who stood grinning at his handiwork, proud as a blacksmith with a new hammer. So we just need the handles and the wheels, right? I asked. He chuckled, haha, yes. Then paused, eyes gleaming. Can I use your design for other things? These wheels of yours are amazing. He meant the omnidirectional ones-me little rebellion against hauling a stubborn tree uphill in a single path. I smirked and nodded. Let the world spin any way it wants. I'll still push forward. I'd do it, but you'd have to pay me. His voice cut through the frostbitten tension, smirking like he'd already written the contract in blood. You could flip it for coin draw, some foot traffic to Morthal, but I'm thinking percentages, or a contract, something with teeth. Jorgen, ever the practical brute, just nodded. Understandable. I'll think of something. That's when I knew omnidirectional wheels weren't just for terrain, they were for maneuvering through conversations like these. I gave him a nod, turned to Odin, whispered, I'm off to slay some vampires. Let me know what he offers for the schematics. She scoffed, I'm not your spy. I rolled my eyes and flicked open my quest log. Right on time. Marching through Morthal's mist, I spotted a woman in a graveyard, 2 shovels, 1 grave, and a name carved into the stone. Helgi. Then the world froze. She wasn't alone. Lilette. What have I told you? The air thickens as another woman appears. Alva, eyes cold as frost. Lilette, uncertain pleads. We can help her, Alva. She can become like us. But Alva's voice slices the hope in half. We talked about this, Lilette. A sigh escapes her. Not from guilt, but calculation. I get it. You feel bad about Helgi. You see your son in her, don't you? I know you still watch your family. She steps forward, pressing a hand over Lilette's mouth, whispers, ignite. Magic unfurls like smoke. I watch closely. Vampiric seduction. Lilette still new, still trying to turn instead of devour. She must have panicked when the fire began, botched the turn, Helgi died. I rub my beard, piecing it together. Lilette is just like Hrogar enchanted, broken. But maybe, just maybe, with Phalian's help, I could bring her back. Maybe. Heh, all for the so-called greater good, right? I almost had Aitra program Azura's artifact into the Black Star no Nelacar required. I decoded Malin's grimoire, cracked the logic tree wide open. But Phalian? Too cautious. He wouldn't dare trigger a Daedric response. I needed someone reckless or blissfully dumb enough to overwrite the artifact without blinking. Lilette looked promising. Knockout first, questions later. Alva? Expendable code, clean deletion. They were still glitching, arguing over nothing. Should I just launch an arrow and force the script? No silver ammo, though. Vampires aren't your average trash mobs, and I wasn't keen on catching a terminal status effect. Just as I hesitated, Lilette bent to grab the shovel trigger flag. Alva stomped, grabbed the second shovel, and slammed it into Lilette's head with a sickening metallic ping. The scene froze. Lilette down, but not deleted. Alva raised the weapon again. Guess she was about to hard-code the kill. I drew my bow, let the arrow fly missed her by a mile. Alva snapped her head my way, eyes sharp, magic crackling at her fingertips. I ditched the bow for my lucky dagger. You're that tree merchant, right? She hissed. Not quite, I said. Just a traveler with a tree. She wasn't amused. Dropping her shovel, her hands lit up. You saw too much. Now you die. I rolled my eyes. How original. What's next? You skinned your cousin's pet? She blinked, confused, and that was my moment. I charged. Her spell fizzled as she stumbled, but the red glow reignited just as I struck. Energy drained from me like sand through glass, but my blade found her gut. You think you're in control? She growled, pinning me to the ground with brute force no magic could match her eyes locked onto mine like a predator savoring the kill. My hand shimmered with hidden power, and she grinned, whispering, "You'll make a fine thrall." That was her mistake. The blade surged, plunging into her gut, not once, but again and again, shock flooding her face as I drove my knee into her and sent her reeling. "You should be under my spell," she gasped, but I was already moving, steel to shoulder, shoving her back down. "Simple," I spat. "You picked the wrong code to corrupt." The final slash carved silence into her throat, and as she crumpled, still twitching, I made sure no more spells. No more games, just the quiet certainty of ending a corrupted line. I rose, my limbs surging with arcane strength as the reinforcement spell snapped the seductive grip like dry twine. It wasn't courage, it was desperation, hoping to avoid becoming a feast. But light crept closer, and Fat Twisted as ever sent me an audience. Alva lay bloodied, Laylette unconscious, and yet this mess might have tilted Lucky. From the ridge, Phalion appeared, shaking his head in disbelief. I jabbed a finger at the collapsed woman. "She's Thonar's wife. You can cleanse her, right?" Even if she gave me the creeps, what would that whole grave digging for a dead kid incident? Phalion knelt, scanned her essence, and sighed. "Yep, she's fresh. No need for a black soul gem." My eyes snapped to him. "What? I thought you always needed a black soul gem." Phalion just smirked like I'd missed the punchline to a cosmic joke. "Only if they fed or turned into something less than human. Then the gem's not stealing innocence, it's giving some back." That hit weird. "So we corrupt something pure to cleanse what's been tainted?" I asked. He just shrugged. "It's not science." Of course it wasn't. While he headed off to rebury a coffin and dig up someone named Alva, I wrestled with the unconscious body of a woman and the weight of moral ambiguity. Tied her up because waking up mid-haul is never ideal and started the long drag back to town. When I saw the guard, I waved like nothing was strange. "Hey, need a hand. Is this Thonir's wife or not?" Because at this point, questions are safer than answers. The guard froze when he saw her jaw slack, eyes wide. "No way, that's Laylette," he shouted, already sending someone to get help. I stepped in, cool as frost. "Might want to check those eyes and fangs," pal girl's rockin' vampire vibes. Buckle up, cause this tale's wild. With that, the pieces aligned. Phalion might not be a total creep after all. Dude had tricks, maybe even a cure. Sanity? That's negotiable. Cut to chapter 24. Chaos inside Jarl's longhouse half of Morthal, packed in. Tension coiled tight. Laylette, restrained. Thonar, wrecked. "Phalion, can you fix her?" he begged. Phalion just nodded. Ice-cold confidence. Eyes turned to Roger. Finally snapped from the spell. Jarl Idgrod raised her voice above the clamor, like thunder cracking through fog. "Enough! We solved nothing by shouting." Then, silence. A breath held. And she called the first names Vec and Phalion. "I owe you a debt of gratitude." The words hang thick in the air as Hroger nods solemnly, relieved that sanity has returned. Thonir stands nearby, quietly grateful for the return of his wife, though the unease remains. A chill settles over Morthonot from the marsh, but from the truth now exposed. Vampires, lurking in shadow, have been stealing lives and minds alike. The Jarl falters, confusion washing over her features, until Gorm steps forward, his voice resolute. "I'll lead the fight, Vec. Fate brought you here. Maybe you're what we need." "Phalion, we were wrong about you. Maybe it's time we did better. Use your magic. Stand with us." And Hroger, vengeance is yours if you'll take it. With that, Gorm turns, cape fluttering like war's banner. Others follow except Thonir. "Stay!" I whisper. She's not herself yet. And deep down, we both know something broken doesn't mend overnight. Thonir gave a quiet nod, truth be told. I wanted him there in case things got messy. Not that he could end her, but maybe hold her still. I stepped out behind Gorm, 9 others ready to storm a vampire den. Phalion tossed me a glance, his voice sharp. "What's your goal here?" I shrugged as Morvath's lair drew closer. "Honestly, I was just going to grab some clothes and bolt. But now, I've got a better blueprint for Morthal. And maybe a few new tools." Before we reached the edge, Jorgen halted us. "A word, just us." Phalion nodded and marched on with the others, leaving me with Jorgen's narrowed eyes. "You're leaving after this, aren't you?" I nodded. Then came his offer, strange, desperate. "I'll trade this." He held out the hilt, dark and humming with something ancient. "A fragment of a Daedric artifact. In return, I want full rights to your omnidirectional wheels." I stabbed 2 arrows into the dirt ritual, not stealth. They'd see the spiders anyway. I vaulted the ledge and hit the ground behind them, landing silent. One stirred, but I was already fading into shadow. Ahead, a thrall scanned the entrance. No words, no mercy. I slipped the blade through their throat and left an arrow as a message. Another thrall, distracted by corpses in a pit, never saw me ghost past. Then main chamber, a grand table, 3 vampires, one lounging like a lord, might be their leader. He muttered about someone running late and didn't know she was already Ash. I stayed tight to the wall, eavesdropping. One muttered excuses. Something about identity maintenance and a needy pawn. They didn't know. That was the advantage. 2 arrows stabbed into the dirt ritual. Not necessity. The spiders were already aware. Vaulting from the ledge, I landed behind them, silent as breath. One stirred, but I was already past. In the next chamber, a vampire thrall stood guard, eyes locked on the doorway. They wouldn't see the dagger until it whispered through their throat. I left an arrow in the wall signature, not warning. Ahead, another thrall looted corpses, gazed downward. I ghosted by, shadow in motion. Then, the banquet hall. 3 vampires feasting in the gloom, one reclined on a throne, pulsing with authority. That had to be their leader. He growled, "Alva is running late. Where is she?" Soignorns was still my ally. From the shadows, I traced the cave's edge, listening. Another voice responded, casual and wrong. Probably stuck managing her cover. That man of hers is needy. Movarth sneered. Wish she'd stop trying to charm every warm-blooded thing. I froze ya. She definitely tried it on me, but I had no time for awkward flashbacks. Slipping past them, I zoned in on the real prize, boots. Not just any Bucci's boots. Right beside a worn bed, I crept closer, then it hit. A siren's wail. Not the singing kind. An alert spell, wrapped around a shelf like a vengeful trap. I moved fast, snatched the hide-wrapped beauties Morvath's boots, silent as shadows, boosting my sneak by 35%. Swapped them for mine. Then the dark welcomed me and so did Movarth's rage. He stormed in shouting, "Come out, you rat! I know you took them!" His crew panicked, yelling for help. Movarth turned. Mid-snarl, whip and arrow bloomed from his neck. Arg! He yanked the arrow free, rage flaring. "So you're the thief! Did you lure Morthal here? I'll kill you in S!" Another arrow silenced his throat, point blank. He staggered. My bow slammed into his chest. As he collapsed, I drew the blade and drove it into his neck again and again. He shoved me off, choking on blood. "What is wrong with you?" he gasped. I watched the red trail crawl down his skin. No wonder Alva was hard to kill, no real blood flow. I had to test this. My hands glowed. Lieber's weakness pulsed through me as I grabbed Movarth Mana draining, then surging back. His eyes widened, body trembling under the pull. He couldn't move, stamina vanishing, health stripped away. No critical hit needed. Just code, just decay. His pale face paled further, and then stilled forever. I held up the silver-black ring with its single blood-red gem, vampiric ring. It read, pulsing with forbidden code. Its enchantment whispered possibilities. Drain life as a mortal. Regenerate as something more. The moment I slipped it on, a spell etched itself into my interface, as if the system recognized me differently now. I turned to Movarth's body and began stripping the armor black and steel, better than the leather scraps clinging to me. "What are you doing?" Gorm asked, his eyes wary. "Upgrading?" I muttered. Tugging the hood over my head, imagining a mask to match something custom, whitewashed to dodge suspicion. Don't want to be flagged as a vampire. My thoughts wandered. Alteration spells? Could one change the armor's tag? As we exited the glitched cave, Gorm halted me. "Let them go, I need to ask you something." I paused, already parsing his intentions. "This is about the Jarl and her dementia, isn't it?" His face flickered, surprised, confused. "Dementia?" The system didn't prepare him for that. I held the strange ring between my fingers silver black, with a single blood-red gem pulsing faintly. "Vampiric ring," the enchantment whispered. "One effect for humans, another for vampires." I slid it on. Power surge spell unlocked. I watched my stats ripple. Magic, stamina, health, recalibrating. I turned to the fallen figure, stripped his armor better than leather, and it had a hood. "Could use a mask," I muttered. "But I'll bleach it. Later don't want to get flagged as undead." Gorm shot me a look. "What are you doing?" "Upgrading," I shrugged. Basic field strategy. Outside, as the cave's breath faded, Gorm halted the others. "Let them go. I need a word." I paused. "This is about the Jarl. Her mind, right?" His eyes flickered. "Dementia?" he echoed, confusion glitching through his face like a corrupted quest line. "So it's either age or illness," I muttered, pen hovering in the air like it had its own opinion. "Maybe future sights the culprit cooks your brain if you peek too far ahead." Gorm gave a long sigh, like the truth was finally out in the open. "Sounds right. Talked to someone in solitude about this already. Hey, if you're heading that way, mind dropping off a letter?" I gave him a nod sounded fair. She should probably step down anyway. War is messy, and advice doesn't need a throne. Gorm smiled like he'd been waiting for someone else to say it. I'll get that letter to you before you go. I paused, making sure I wasn't missing any loose ends. We're even, right? No more favors? Gorm nodded again. Perfect. One more thing. Can you spare a journal? Lost mine in a carriage accident. I didn't blink. He chuckled. Easy. I've got plenty. Later, Odin caught me writing again and raised a brow. Why are you scribbling after zoning out like that? I ignored her. Some thoughts weren't ready to be shared with a voice that never forgets. I opened the journal with a flick, my fingers tracing the faded ink on the page as if it held the answers. Vec Frostwain, I muttered, the name already feeling more like a system variable than my own. The entries were clear passive effects stacked like legacy code. Frost couldn't touch me, death danced just out of reach, and my reflexes pinged like glitchless scripts in a chaos engine. Ancestral perks activated on contact, skills sharpened under pressure, and battle itself became my training module. I could cast 3 spells at once, feel armor, turn to bark, and stand like gravity didn't matter. But with all power came contradiction. Progress slowed, evened out, twisted through parallel growth trees. My feet found balance, my vision sharpened beyond normal optics, and when I stood still, nothing could move me. The steed stone etched strength into my bone sextra carry load. Armor no longer a burden. Then came the powers. Once a week, a transformation, any beast, any form. Hersine's hunt, it marked targets like I marked code 4 days unbreakable lock. As I wrote it all down, line by line, I realized this wasn't just a character sheet. It was a blueprint. Not of a warrior, but of something built to fracture reality and learn from the cracks. Thonir gave a quiet nod, truth be told. I wanted him there in case things got messy. Not that he could end her, but maybe hold her still. I stepped out behind Gorm, 9 others ready to storm a vampire den. Valian tossed me a glance, his voice sharp. What's your goal here? I shrugged as Morvath's lair drew closer. Honestly, I was just going to grab some clothes and bolt. But now, I've got a better blueprint for Morthal. And maybe a few new tools. Before we reached the edge, Jorgen halted us. A word, just us. Valian nodded, marched on with the others, leaving me with Jorgen's narrowed eyes. You're leaving after this, aren't you? I nodded. Then came his offer, strange, desperate. I'll trade this. He held out the hilt, dark and humming with something ancient. A fragment of a Daedric artifact. In return, I want full rights to your omnidirectional wheels. Azura's star shattered, Pelagius' bone humming, and the hilt of a forbidden blade tucked beneath layered spell scrolls, 4,866 golden Atmaron credits, and 1,347 septims jangled at my side as I eyed my spellbook. Camouflage sparked a grin. Valian's little gift. Let me flip my vampire armor's black shadows into white linings. My steps, silent in Movarth's recolored boots. Gems, scrolls, potions. I stopped counting. The damn talking tree still wouldn't shut up, nagging me to hurry like some nature-born quest marker. I snapped my physical journal shut, too many skill trees to sift through later. Solitude loomed ahead. Hidden instincts needed finishing. Of course, Maxis blocked the gates. Vec, is that you? Oh great, just what I needed. What's with the tree? He asked, eyes narrowed. I shrugged, cool as frostbite. Magic kind. Don't drink the sap unless you like jail time or memory loops. He nodded, like that made perfect sense. I pushed Odin forward, cloak dragging shadows behind me. Is he your friend? Came the question. I whispered back. The guards owe McQuest reward perks. Then, Vic. Sorax again, timing like a glitch trigger. What's with the tree? I sighed, already predicting the script. Magic. Sap's off limits. Sorax grinned, spark in his eye. Quest time, pirate ship, near Solitude, you in? My lips curled because of course I was. A pirate ship? I blink as Sorax shoves a crumpled note into my hand, its title blazing, The Restless. But weirdly, it's addressed to Sorax himself. Where'd you get this? I ask, suspicion curling like smoke. He just shrugs, cool as ice. Courier gave it to me. A pirate ship haunted by ghosts, and whoever clears them out gets to claim the vessel now. That's some treasure. So, you want a pirate ship? I prod, half grinning. Sorax shrugs again. Why not? Could be fun to fix up. I laugh. All right, I'll help you, after I handle a few things. Oh, speaking of which, did an orc named Lurbuck rent a room here? Sorax's face twists in horror. Oh gods, yes, the worst bard I've ever heard. Thankfully, he said he was off to get some proper training. Guess that's one problem solved for now. I figured Lurbuck could tag along for the King Olaf verse mess away. It's nice to have a walking meat shield who owes you one. Favors? Best currency around. I gave Sorax a lazy salute, shoved Odin up that hill, and of course, she had opinions. Could be fun, pirate ship and all. Yeah, maybe after I stop dragging trees around. Captain Aldous clocked us, immediately leaned on Odin like I just finished a marathon. What's with the tree, he asked. I gave him the real truth, hissed and all. Warned him about the sap's little side effects, drink it, and you might start asking questions to the tree. Or worse, hearing answers. Aldous looked like his brain tripped on a branch but nodded anyway. Need water? He asked. I nodded. Legate Rikke loves plants, he muttered, waving it off. Great. Imperial Command meets jungle horticulture. Solitude never fails to get weirder. I needed into the Imperial Legiono easy feat mid-war. Got this letter from Gorm, I said, flipping it to Captain Aldous. He scanned it with a grunt. We talked, months ago, but with the war. He trailed off, doubts thick as the smoke over Solitude. I raised a what if. Suppose the war ended. That earned me a sigh sharp enough to cut steel. You're not planning what I think. Not yet, I smirked. He shook his head. File it for later, he muttered, walking off. But I wasn't done. How do I get into the sewers? I called. Silence. A headshake. Then Odine's voice drifted in like ghost wind. There's a werewolf down there. I feel its pain. You sure about this? I clenched my jaw. The deeper I dug, the darker it got. And I wasn't stopping. I let out a weary sigh, muttering, Guess I've got no choice. Before hitting the market for steak and juice fuel for whoever the mystery daughter might be. Then it's straight into the sewers, where the air stinks worse than any cursed swamp, sticky and close, the darkness pressing in until I spark candlelight to float like a ghost beside me, half expecting no beast but refusing to drop my guard as I slink through sludge and shadows, following distant noises until I reach a sealed passage. My fingers brush stone and runes blaze to life, humming with arcane charge, and when I grip the handle and find it unlocked, all the puzzle pieces crash together in my mind. I've cracked it. The door creaked open, barely holding back the sewer's putrid stench, and glowing runes whispered of protection spells, long forgotten. As the gap widened, the noise surged, growls melting into howls, then the harsh clatter of chains and metal. Torches sparked to life as I stepped into the passage, revealing a cavern where a chained werewolf waited. But this wasn't just any beast. This was the girl. Her eyes locked on mine, wild and wary, yanking a chain, free with raw power, while 4 more bound her limbs and neck. I asked if she was still sane, unsure if she was trapped in the transformation or lost to it. Her posture eased, just a bit. Still tense, still dangerous. I slowly reached for the food I'd brought, hoping it was enough to remind her who she was. These baskets seem empty, you hungry? Her eyes, sharp and untrusting, locked onto mine. I let out a sigh, slipped off the cursed ring, and tossed it her way. She caught it midair, claws glinting, hesitation in her stare. Then slowly, carefully, she slid it on. Flesh twisted, bones reformed human again. Her dress barely held together, wildness still clinging to her like fog. No words yet, just tension. I crouched, smirked. Feel like eating now? She fought her voice. Who are you? I stood tall, unblinking. Vec Frostwain. Also, the one who killed your father. And just like that, her world cracked. She glared through the haze of emotion, anger, crackling, sorrow, whispering, and then that cold sigh of surrender. Why did you kill him? Her limbs were free, but that cursed collar still clung to her throat like a memory that wouldn't let go. I chomped down on the sausage, unfazed. He made a pact with a Daedric prince to save you. The cure was an axe, the rueful axe. Figures he kept it. Journal said he was ready to end you if madness took hold. Her laugh was bitter lightning. Can't blame him. The rage? It's still there. The hunger? Not the kind that food quiets. I nodded, remembering the blur of the ring, the beast, the blood. I used Hircine's ring. It turned me into a werebeast, chaos. She picked up the ring, eyes widening. When you toss this to me, it called out. I grinned. Artifact of Hircine. Controls the transformation. Her head tilted like a curious hound. So, I'm stuck? I shrugged. Unlikely. You just have to learn how to control your transformation. It's not a cure. But hey, control's the next best thing, I said, calm like I'd said it 100 times. She glared, yanked off the ring, and hurled it at me like it had personally offended her. I caught Itraflex's hand. She gasped, eyes wide, staring at her still human hands. What the hell? I'm still human? I gave her a nod, barely hiding a smirk. Magic ring. What'd you expect? Anyway, what's your name? Her eyes followed mine down, face lighting up like a warning beacon as she yanked her cloak tighter. Why should I tell you, pervert? She snapped. I raised an eyebrow. How am I the pervert? Honestly, I'm impressed you're still dressed. Wait, maybe that's because I transformed into a werewolf behemoth earlier. Huh, that actually makes sense. Mental note for next time. I shrugged. Name, or would you rather stay down here with the echo rats and bad lighting? She lets out a frustrated sigh, her eyes glinting as she hisses, Care to help me with this collar? But my quest log still screams unfinished business, and my own sigh slips out as I ask, "What happens when you're finally free?" Her voice cracks rough and raw. "I don't know, just help me." But my head's already shaking, because after how long she's been running wild as a beast, no way I'm letting her loose. Her eyes blaze and she lunges, chains rattling her back. Coughing out a fierce curse as I can't help smirking, "Kinda proved my point." Flipping open my quest log where the branches glare at me. Either I kill her, tame her, or help her find a cure, but no matter what, she's destined to become my companion, and my eyes drift past her toward the cold iron links holding her fate. She kept watching me, eyes locked like I was some wild variable in her code. Sure, I wouldn't mind her tagging along, she had that chaotic charm, but I've always been a solo operator, handling bugs myself, lycanthropy. The only fix I knew came buried in the companion's questline. Odds were, someone in Whiterun was already halfway through that code branch. My only shot? Hunt a witch, drag her into that creepy tomb, and trigger the ritual. Or, as my quest log cryptically put it, tame her. What the hell did that mean? Train her like a glitching hound? Before I could debug that logic thread, she snapped, "Are you just gonna stare at me?" I mentally scanned my skill tree, speechcraft, mostly persuasion. To bind her properly, I'd need the contract perk, soul binding magic and all that, but I'd spent points elsewhere. No way to climb that tree now. But maybe the simulation didn't need a real contract. Just belief. If she thought it was legit, maybe the quest would validate. I grinned, stalling for dramatic effect. That's when I finally answered. I was trying to think of a way out, some clever loophole that wouldn't end with someone bleeding or broken. She crawled back, animal-like suspicion in her eyes. "You've got that look again." I stood grinning just enough to worry her. "I really don't know what you mean." Chapter 27, a deal so real. Convincing her the contract was legit? Not easy. I stood tall. "Hold on, I've got a little trick up my sleeve." She never blinked as I turned down the hall, pulling out scrap paper like it was a sacred scroll. Spell after spell, nothing stuck until Locke hit like a lime green pulse. Bingo, the page shimmered. I raised a brow, pen met paper, nothing, not a drop. Interesting. Locke didn't just bind objects it froze states. No rot, no spoil, no change. Useful, very useful. Time for draft 2. The real challenge? Writing a deal even a god would hesitate to break. It had to look real just enough to fool a system built on contracts and consequence. So, I framed the deal like a game quest. Party A? Me? Party B? Her. She'd be my follower, bound to me until I found a cure for her condition, not that I was in any rush. But if a cure did surface and she still chose to stay, we'd draft a new agreement, this time under proper mechanics once I earned the real contract perk. But safeguards? Yeah, those were tricky. Saying, if she hurts me, she pays, was too obvious it'd tip her off that the deal was fake. So instead, I got clever. If I die, she dies. Simple, ominous, binding. And if she's the reason I fall, then magic slow, creeping, silent activates on my death. Not before. Not a moment sooner. And that, dear system, is how you write a trap disguised as trust. A pulse of magic rippled through the room terms set. No turning back now. Said magic will cause Party B to experience every pain and trauma they've ever given me. I declared, my eyes cold steel. Maybe that'll keep her claws where they belong. I wasn't about to wake up hogtied in some cave. Then the spark catif, I could bind action to consequence. Maybe I could control more than just threats. Party B will follow direct commands from Party A, I wrote. Refusal? That just extends the contract. Even if her curse lifts, she's still mine for every disobedient day. I signed with a smirk and handed it over. Your move, I said coolly. Vyri stared at the parchment, then at me. I can't read, she mumbled. My grin faded. Your signature? I asked. She shook her head again. I sighed, the ink barely dry, already feeling the headache settle in. Of course you don't, Vyri flings her arms skyward, eyes blazing with wild frustration. What'd you expect? My old man wasn't about to waste time teaching a werewolf to scribble letters. I couldn't even grip a pen. I let out a groan, rubbing my temples. Just dip your finger in ink and press it on the paper. A fingerprint's unique enough for the contract to recognize you. She blinks in disbelief. Seriously? Is that real? Nern's laws? Hell if I know it's a bogus contract anyway. But I smirk and lean in. Tell you what, I'm throwing in a special clause just for you. My quill scratches across parchment again. Party A is going to teach Party B whatever she asks, but Party B owes Party A a favor whenever commanded and. Every time she refuses, her contract drags on another year. She squints at me. But I still can't read. What are you scribbling now? I roll my eyes so hard it hurts. She blinked at the unfastened collar. Disbelief scrawled across her face like a poorly written side quest. No key? I could have done it myself? I just smirked, flipping the latch like it was a loot chest left ajar. Poacher's collar, I muttered. Not so easy without the right angle. She groaned and stretched like a freed wolf, then tossed the inevitable. You got clothes? I didn't answer. Just turned and flicked open my quest log like a spellbook last task. Exit the hidden prison. I'll buy you some, I said, already ghosting toward daylight. Later, I snagged some basic leather armor for her, not because I'm generous, but because she's a werewolf and fate throws loot at people like her. No point investing gold when the next dungeon coughs up better gear. She looked at me, confused, but I didn't answer. My eyes were fixed on that chain collar. No keyhole, just as I thought. I snapped the mechanism open with a twist, and the collar dropped free. She blinked in disbelief. Wait, that thing didn't need a key? I could have undone it myself, I shrugged. Poacher's collar. Hard to unhook if you can't see it. She groaned and stood up. Got any clothes for me? Another shrug. I turned to leave, checked my quest log, and only one thing left. Exit the hidden prison. I'll buy you some. Later, I picked up some basic leather armor for her from the blacksmith, ignoring the Imperial hustle. Radiant raiment did the tailoring. Nothing fancy. I wasn't blowing gold on a werewolf, especially with loot chances on the rise. Once her armor shimmered with new threads, I led us straight to the bard's college me mindset on the King Olaf's verse, and, maybe, roping in a backup vocalist. Viry froze, ears twitching. You hear that? I did. The dissonance wasn't from the world, it was inside it. We pushed into the hall. Viarmo, headmaster of cacophony, sighed. Again, from the top, you're off key. Lurbuk strummed sadly until he saw me. Vec, over here! Viarmo squinted like scanning corrupted files. You told Lurbuk about us? Guilty, I said. I'm more of a scribbler than a singer. Viry side-eyed. I shrugged. Viarmo nodded with academic gloom. Writing a song that's the real battle. Lurbuk beamed like he'd glitched into meaning. It's the most rewarding thing ever. Viarmo brushed off Lurbuk and turned to me with that sly grin. The Jarls axed the festival. Yeah, tradition shattered like a dropped lute. But if we get our hands on King Olaf's verse, Lurbuk's eyes lit up like he'd just chugged a keg of mead. That song, imagine me belting it out. I raised a brow. So you want us to fetch it, huh? Viarmo gave a smug nod. Lizette whispered your name, said, Sorex saw what you did at the winking skeever. I smirked, I'm game. Lurbuk cheered mid-fist pumpingly to get cut off. Not you. You still sound like a dying skeever, Viarmo snapped. Then he turned to me, dead serious. Dead men's respite, go. And just like that, my would-be sidekick got benched and I got drafted into the weirdest musical quest ever, led by the most charmingly annoying bard in Skyrim. Bro was seriously about to ditch me solo. I turned to leave cue dramatic exit, but Viry throws the brakes. Wait, we're just doing that without backup? I glance at her, then zero in on Viarmo. All right, maestro, talk numbers. What's the payout, the fame, and the hustle? Profit from this festival gig. Viarmo crunches it. Bards will throw you 3K septims. Blue Palace might kick in some title or deed if you're lucky big rep in Solitude. And profit? Festival booths triple their haul, easy. I smirk, shift gears. Hypothetical. Say I want to build an info guild. How useful is this verse, fetch for street cred? Viarmo's eyes gleam. Easy mode. Bards thrive on info trades lyrics, travel hacks, even gossip. You'd be the hub. I smirked at her, the shadows of ambition dancing behind my eyes. Rewards? They're not always loot and fame. Sometimes the true treasure is intel gold, clout, secrets. She rolled her eyes, clearly unimpressed. Whatever, let's move. But my mind wasn't just on the path ahead. I needed data on the others. The 20 ghosts in the machine. They were the real endgame, the only threat I couldn't predict. And I'd already taken one out. No badge for it, no fanfare, just silence. As we walked, she broke it. You planning to start an info guild? I gave a knowing nod. Everyone wants something. And information? That's how they get it. Say someone wants a cure for lycanthropy. With the right whispers, you'd find out where. I even know the spot. But without status or rep, it's just a rumor lost in static. She tilted her head. So you've got a lead on a cure, but the gatekeeper doesn't care enough to talk? I smirked again. Exactly. I knew the cure, of course I did, but truth has its own weight. Sure, I could have climbed the faction ranks like some ambitious mercenary, but trading favors was easier, cleaner. Viry tilted her head, sharp eyes catching mine. And once they trust you, then what? I hesitated. She wasn't asking for plans, she was asking for motives. Most are greedy, she muttered. My father was. That's why I didn't mourn when you ended him. I wasn't the first werewolf caged beneath this city. I gave a half smile. The usual. Coin, thrill, control, maybe a touch of chaos. Her smirk curled like a secret blade. The usual, huh? I pushed into the winking skeever, flicking a salute to the barkeep. Pirate adventure? He grinned, already reaching for his gear. Ha ha! Thought you'd never ask. I bought some supplies. Before anything else, I stopped him and introduced Vairimi Pet Dog. She flicked a middle finger and spat, "Screw you." I grinned while Sorex chuckled. "Nice to meet you, Vairi. Hired muscle from Vec, right?" She nodded coolly, something like that. And yeah, she totally looked the part. Muscles like coiled wire even after sewer time. With some training, she'd be ripped. Lucky on the genes, no signs of her dad's balding fate. When Sorex wandered off to pack, she turned to me. Pirate adventure? I just shrugged. I'll explain on the road. Should be fun. Chapter 29. Dead at Sea? Turns out Sorex packed way more gear than I thought. Didn't take long before the air turned thick with tension, even though we hadn't gone far from solitude, and Sorex had the brilliant idea of renting a tiny boat. Fiery eyed the water like it had fangs, and I couldn't resist. What, scared of a few fish? Sorex laughed, too busy casting his line to care. Then came the smirkaways. A warning. Ever hear of the Gagrum slaughterfish? He teased, eyes glinting. I raised a brow. Gagrum? What now? He grinned wider. Not actually a slaughterfish. More like a shark thing. Glows at dawn, eats ships whole, sea of ghost stuff. Vairi didn't look thrilled. It better not be real. He waved her off. Sailor's tale, probably pirates. Still, my mind raced glowing scales, forgotten waters, and something big enough to bend myth. A leviathan, huh? Now that would be worth hunting. The ship creaked beneath me as I pointed toward a jagged white shape on the horizon. Is that the island? I asked, heart thumping. Sorex glanced up, reeling in his line like it owed him answers. Yeah, that's it. Vairi frowned, her eyes narrowing. It looks like the whole place froze over. I nodded grimly it had, but there was more. The iceberg wasn't natural. Its shape, its placement, it was a veil. This is a lagoon, I muttered, piecing it together. They hid here, used the rocks as cover, then pulled some serious ice manipulation. Magic, sabotage, or worse. Sorex gave a slow nod. Dock there. We'll tie to the tree. I guided the vessel in, the frost snapping at our edges. Vairi leapt out first, but I held her back. Stay here. We don't know what's inside. Her glare could have cracked steel. I'm sworn to protect you, she said through clenched teeth, and I knew she meant more than just blades and vows. We ain't looking for a brawl, just pitching camp, she snaps, tongue clicking as my gaze drifts to Sorex prowling ahead until he freezes at a narrow gap, eyes flicking my way while he mutters, This looks like the only way through, unless we circle the whole island. And I'm shaking my head, scoffing. Doubt there's another entrance. Pointing into a passage, glinting with ice twisted around a stone arch, whispering like secrets of old pirates who carved out a hidden bay, and Sorex squints, frowning. How do we squeeze in there? Because yeah, he's wiry enough to slip through, but me and Vairi would wedge in like stuck arrows, so I grin, teeth sharp. We melt it open. And he stares, voice edged with worry. That'll take ages, won't it? But I'm already shaking my head, eyes glinting. Got any salt? And he nods reluctantly. Only 2 sacks. Meant for the boat if it ices over, not for blasting through frozen pirate caves. I smirked. I've got vinegar and wine throw and salt. We've got ourselves a back door to the ice. Sorex blinked. That's alchemy? I shrugged, already heading to Vairi's setup. Different freeze points. Combined effect boom, passage cleared. Back at the fire, we got to work. He dumped salt. I mixed the liquids, and Vairi sparked the flames. So? I asked, swirling the concoction. What's really going on with this quest? Sorex hesitated, then pulled the worn note again. It's not a quest scroll, it's a torn journal page. He pointed at the jagged edge like it bit back. Vairi groaned. Yeah, we can tell. Sorex squinted, unimpressed. She's no fun, but now the real puzzle who tore it out, why send it to me and what in the void happened here? I nodded, smirking. Definitely weird. But we'll crack it, I've got the gear. All 3 of us crept toward the entrance. Vairi let out a breath. That's tiny. Me and Sorex burst out laughing. She shot us a glare. What? I stepped up, got to work. Sorex peeked over my shoulder, eyes gleaming. That's working fast. He couldn't wait, slipped through like shadow, vanished. What's in there? I called. All clear, he shouted back. Vairi slid through next. Then mate was tight, but I made it. Then I saw it and gasped. Whoa! That's one big ship, all right? Sorex gave a low whistle, saying it dwarfed anything back in solitude. Vairi, sharp-eyed as ever, pointed to a leather-bound journal beside the dead fire. I stepped closer. Boots crunching near the old ashes, someone's final camp. The skeleton, mummified by time, lay wrapped in a makeshift bedroll. I picked up the book, but before I could flip a page, a ghost surged up, screeching, "Who disturbs the dead?" Instinct took over. I slammed the journal straight into its face. Boom. Ectoplasm explosion. Ghosts on a pirate ship? Yeah, makes sense now, I muttered. Sorex chuckled, impressed by my reflexes. Viry raised an eyebrow as I cracked open the book again. Really? Now? I shrugged. Might be clues. While she rolled her eyes and Sorex rummaged through busted crates nearby. I flipped through the brittle pages and raised a brow. It all came down to the last gasp of a cursed crew. Someone had triggered something ancient, something cold. A pirate ship hijacked an artifact. Greed burned hotter than caution, and the first to touch it, frozen solid. But did they stop? Of course not. They hauled it to a lagoon, dreaming of gold. The artifact vanished, a storm howled, and the whole place iced over like some divine punishment. One by one, the crew turned into frostbound statues, and that's when the dead began to whisper. I chuckled. Guess who found a clue? Viry groaned. What now? I laid it out, cursed blizzard vanishing relic. They listened like their lives depended on it. The twist? 2 pirates escaped, set up camp here, but one of them bled out after a ghost attack. Looks like even death has a memory, and it's cold. Sorex burst in like a storm, eyes wide. He escaped! I tossed him the journal, smirking. His name's in here. A farewell, from the writer to someone important. Sorex caught it, flipped pages with twitchy fingers, then froze as if the air turned to frost. By the divines, he whispered, reading aloud. I hope you can achieve your goals, my friend. I'll miss you, my best friend, Corpulus. His voice cracked. Then the question, who's Corpulus? I narrowed my gaze, letting the silence stretch, then dropped it like a glitch bomb. Your father, the one running the winking skeever. Laughter tumbled out of Sorex, equal parts shock and amusement. Well, that explains a lot, but why would he send me here? I tapped my chin, thoughts threading like unstable code. Maybe he knew you'd pull me into this. Maybe he wanted a party when things broke down. You wanted adventure, right? Now you've got it with a bit more truth about your old man. Sorex nodded, the weight of it settling. Maybe. Either way, we're in this now. The artifact freezes people in ice, calls storms, maybe even stirs up ghosts. We stepped onto the haunted ship, cold air thick with tension. I suggested the ghosts weren't summoned, but born manifestations of agony, pirates starving slowly beneath ice, souls screaming long after breath had left them. Viry shivered, horrified, haunted by her own near fate below solitude. I drew Bowler's oath blade, ready for whatever came next. Time to fight some ghosts, I muttered. Silence met us on the deck, broken only by Sorex's grim guess. These bone screw who fought back. A door creaked open, we froze. Did you hear that, I asked? Viry nodded, whispering, footsteps. Sorex's face tightened. Then we'd better be careful. We stepped deeper into the ship, shadows watching, air growing colder. It didn't take long before spectral pirates burst through the haze, blades howling with the fury of the dead. You cannot hide from the dead! One shrieked as they lunged with savage power. Viry raised her guard, steel catching the weight of ghostly fury. Sorex slipped past a cleaving arc like wind between bones. I drove my blade through a less coordinated phantom's howl, dissolving into mist. We pressed on. One blocks, one dodges, one strikes it became our dance. But something itched in the edges of my thoughts. How did some of them even die to these things, I muttered. Sorex shrugged, already reaching for a door. Viry swung open a nearby cabin. Icicle people, she said flatly. Another door, same story. Then I opened mine and froze. Not ice, Stalrim. My pulse surged. This isn't ice, this is Stalrim. It's stronger than ebony armor. We've hit a damn vault. Both turned, disbelief in their eyes. Sorex paused, breath-catching. Wait! I vaguely remembered hearing about Stalrim before, but the details escaped me. I smirked and dropped the bomb. Only place to find Stalrim now is Solstheim and at Mora. That's when the sound hit dozens of boots hitting the deck. Viry cursed. Great, you just woke the entire damn ship. I threw my hands up. You'd be excited too, back to back now. We locked into a triangle as ghostly figures poured in from every angle except the cleared cabins. It felt like running through a dungeon, every enemy aggroed at once. Mental note, next time, be quieter. My stats flickered in the corner, one hand 37, light armor 29, level up ready after sleep. I wiped my brow, checked on the others. You two good? Viry collapsed dramatically. I need a shield. Sorex barely held up a finger, just tired. I tossed them potions and downed one myself. Then Sorex asked the golden question, do we search the sludge? I shook my head. Not unless you want ectoplasm. These ghosts were nothing but smoky Liz, no loot, no leads, just cold, useless vapor. Good news? They're less bite. More bluff now. We can split up. Sorek smirked from a barrel, claiming the deck. Vairi sighed, dragging her boots toward the cabins. I nodded, the unclaimed shadows left to me. Count the Stalrum. Grab books, journals, anything that talks back, they vanished into darkness. I crept down creaking stairs, stepping into a ruinous fusion of tavern and forge-rotted food behind the bar, rust-eaten tools, time's decay etched into every surface. The ingots gleamed, untouched, tempting but untrusted. Then click, my gaze snagged on obsidian gleam, a black pickaxe, not just any tool. Ancient Nord make its grip frozen mid-swing inside a Stalrim vein. Someone had died trying to break Time's armor. I grinned. Their mistake was my artifact. On the icy workbench, a frostbitten journal waited. Vec grabbed it, skimming the brittle pages. Someone had tried using a pickaxe to free a frozen soul, possibly another glitch victim. The journal hinted at a looted Nord ruin, but the details were corrupted, barely readable. I'm in the captain's room, I shouted, just as Vairi and Sorex emerged from the shadows. No more ghosts, so that's good, Sorex muttered, scanning the silence. Vairi gestured toward the stairs. You checked the cargo yet? I shook my head. Was just about to read the captain's journal. She nodded. Break time then. Sorex agreed. Ship's clear, let's eat, rest. I closed the journal, thoughts spinning like storm winds. All right, here's the short version. I said, eyes narrowing. Pirates followed a cursed burial ship to some forgotten crypt. Bad idea. Really bad. And the Neverthing spiraled. Hard. They slaughtered the crypt keepers just to snag the Kysidiots. At the entrance, glittering treasures meant for the dead lured them in. But of course, that wasn't enough. Deeper they went, ignoring every omen, chilled by unnatural cold and surrounded by cages bolted over graves. Soon, they hit Stalrim veins never melting ice with ancient pickaxes embedded like forgotten warnings. So the artifact? Vairi asked, slicing through the tension. I nodded. Getting there. The pirates busted open a sealed vault with brute force, blind to the runes and warnings. Inside, riches beyond greed gold, silver, ebony, even Daedric hearts. But above it all pulsed the hearth of Isis Melta. One sailor reached for it, eyes wide, and that's when the curse struck his body freezing, crystallizing into unbreakable ice. They took it all anyway. Including the frozen corpse. Sorex raised an eyebrow. And the crypt? The artifact? I shrugged like it was obvious. That crypt? Just a mask, looked like a burial site, but it's really a Stalrim refinery. Corpses in, ice armor out. Dual purpose, you get it. Vairi stepped back, uneasy. The artifact. Where is it? I'd rather stay unfrozen. Sorex added, You're from Atmora, right? I nodded as that strange instinct struck again, like memory dressed as prophecy. The hearth of Izameltate's not just a jewel, it's alive. A storm trapped in crystal, crafted in silence. Don't ask me how I know, it's like reading code I didn't write. Anyway, it's locked away. Strong box inside a chest, bottom deck. I scratched my head, safer there than on me. The captain sealed it away to stop the chaos, but the cost was steep. Just like his crew, he vanished into legend, a shadow of sacrifice. Meanwhile, someone's already plotting to loot the place once they wake, confident they can handle an artifact they've never seen talk about guts or pure madness. Vairi sighs, readying her bedroll, while Sorex takes first watch, whispering his fear of her like she's some kind of ancient monster. He's not wrong, she was a werewolf after all. I smirk but keep quiet. No doubt she heard every word. I roll over, hoping for some XP in Dreamland and Jackpot. I level up twice in the Dreamscape. I drop both points into mana stamina can wait. I'm not even close to maxing my carry weight. The captain placed the artifact where it couldn't harm anyone again, but in doing so, he doomed himself just like the rest of his crew. When the fire crackled low and the camp quieted, plans to raid the ship further hung in the air. One claimed to understand the artifact, despite never having seen it, full of reckless confidence. Vairi, with a weary sigh, pulled her sleeping bag close while Sorex took first watch, his voice low as he admitted Vairi scared him. A werewolf's ears don't miss much. I stifled a laugh, knowing she definitely heard. Hoping for progress, I turned to sleep and soon found myself in the dreamscape, greeted by the pleasant shock of 2 level-ups. I funneled both points into mana carry weight, could wait feeling a surge of arcane potential that hinted something big was on the horizon. I hadn't sold a single item yet, but there I was eyes locked on the alteration skill tree like it held the secret to bending the world itself. Maybe it did. Maybe I needed to power level it fast. No clue if that would even work, but then an idea lit up in my mind. What if I just used Harvest on every single Stalrim deposit I could find? That sly grin hit me before I even knew it. Efficient and dangerous, and hey, it might just push my carry limit to the edge. I'd probably need that ancient pickaxe though. Or maybe, just maybe, I could harvest the vein that still had the thing lodged in it. But just as the thought looped into a recursive gamble, something tugged at my awareness. Sorex, dreams breaking, time to exit before I'm dragged.